Hey everybody, my name is Kristen and I'm one of the senior managing editors here at Local IQ, and today's webinar is about the 5 most powerful marketing strategies to improve your online presence now. So I'm going to be your host, but before we get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Local IQ. So we know that sometimes small businesses need more than just great tech or an extra helping hand to make their goals a reality. That's why WordStream partnered with Local IQ to offer the most comprehensive marketing solutions you need to grow. Part of the USA Today network, the experts at Local IQ are passionate about helping small local businesses to thrive. All right, let's start the webinar. All right, so like I said, today we're talking about online presence, which in today's world is pretty much everything, sometimes more important than your physical presence. So what I'm going to do is first define what a strong online presence means, and then we'll get into those 5 strategies. All right, so what is online presence? My definition here is that it's a representation of your business involving reach, rank, and reputation, and influenced by the internet, the public, and you. So let's walk through these. For reach, that's how many different places you exist in across the web. So how many different assets do you have? For rank, that's how visible or prominent are those assets, and do they show up on the platforms that they are made for? And for reputation, this is about how credible you are. So basically, how much do search engines and people trust your business? And as for what influences your online presence, we've got the internet, the public, and you. So with the internet, everything you see today on Google, social media, and on directories, all of that is algorithm based. So that means that there's a lot of factors being taken into account in terms of what you're seeing when you perform a search for something. And for the public, we know this. This is how anybody who encounters your business experiences it. So how do they engage with it? How do you engage back with them? What they say about it? So things like reviews, blog comments, social media comments, that kind of thing. And then last of all, you. So it can feel a little scary with the web and the public having such clout in your online presence, but ultimately you're in control of it all. You know, the public, they can put a review, they can post a review, but you can respond to that. The web has algorithms, but you can optimize for those algorithms. So we're going to be talking about all that today. All right, why is an online presence important? So stats here, 63% of buyer journeys start online. And I have here that it's not just for e-commerce. So not just Amazon or fashion sites or like Chewy, which is a online pet supply site. In our middle stat here, we see that 97% of people go online to find products and services near them and with intent. So 70% of people that look for a business online and they find information, they end up visiting that store. So yes, online presence is important, but we all know this, the web is a very busy and competitive place. So this is why you need a strong online presence. So what does strong online presence mean? I got a little T-chart here. So first of all, your assets are complete. And when I say assets, I'm just talking about your website, your listings, and your social media profiles. Those are your core assets. And for these, you don't just have the bare minimum thrown up there just to get online. Each one is thoughtfully created and they give a good first impression of your business. And they also work together. Second, your assets are dynamic. So instead of just kind of sitting there, they're getting updated and engaged with regularly. Third, they're proactive. So with an existence, your business is really only set up to get found by people who are searching for your business name. So they already know you exist or they're a customer. But with an online presence, your assets paint a complete picture of your business, and people can discover and encounter your business in a variety of scenarios. So that could mean They're looking for the category of products or services you provide, or they come across you when they're on their social media feeds, or even when they're browsing websites based on their interests that might not even have to do with your business. And your assets add value. So they don't just provide the logistical information like what you offer and how to get in touch with you, but they provide useful information that can benefit people even if they're not, excuse me, a paying customer. And finally, I got a little ahead of myself earlier, but a strong online presence paints a complete picture of your business. So with an existence, there's that, logistical information. They can understand what you do and where you are, but in order to figure out whether or not they want to trust you or even take a first step in engaging with you, they need to put in effort. So if they can't find any information online, they're going to have to resort to asking people they know or going to your store or giving you a call, which in many cases today, that's just, it's not what we do. Online is so much more convenient. So a person is more likely to just going to move on to a business that has all that information online. So to my point, with an online presence, your assets work together to form a complete picture of your business. So the logistical information, but also what your store looks like, what your products look like. You may not have a store, what your employees look like, how credible you are, your personality, what other customers think about you. So the more that a consumer can learn about your business online, that's both proactively and in a passive manner. Like if they're just browsing the web and they see your website somewhere or an ad, they're going to be more likely to engage with you. And the biggest takeaway here, of course, is that a strong online presence really means a strong reputation, which is huge. So how do you achieve that? So we've got website, social media, listings, paid ads, and content. And for each of these channels, these are the 3 areas of focus that I'm going to use. So that's appearance, experience, and visibility. And that's because these are the 3 elements that impact those 3 R's I talked about earlier, which were reach, rank, and reputation. So I like 3s. All right, so let's start with website. So the stat here is that 56% of consumers won't consider a business without a website. Now, this makes sense because, you could have great social media profiles and listings, but websites are still always going to be the go-to for people. So if somebody tells us about a business or a product, we don't typically say like, cool, I will give them a call, or I will get in my car and go visit them. We say, yeah, sure, I'll check out their website. It's our knee-jerk reaction, and it's the easiest way for us to get information that we're looking for. So it's not really a judgmental thing, it's just second nature. It's how we buy. All right, so for the appearance, 2 more stats here. So the majority of people do in fact judge a business based on its website design, and that's in 0.5 seconds. So speaking of knee-jerk reaction, that's another application of that. So even if you have a lot of great content on your website and you're an expert, you're a successful and thriving business, if that first visual impression isn't good, that's not what visitors are going to, that's not what they're going to think when they arrive there. And chances are you're probably going to have a lot of people leaving your site before they even get a chance to realize that, you could be the best business for them. So that's why it's important for your website to be modern and attractive and also authoritative. So you can see what I mean here by modern with this example on the right. We have the old and new version of a website for this particular business. So some things to notice here with the new version, it looks official, it's clean, it has consistent colors and fonts, and the information is just a lot more clear and easier to digest. And it's kind of hard to see the menu here, or it might be really hard to see the menu here, but it's intuitive. So when a person goes to a website, they typically have an expectation of where they're going to find specific information, and it falls in line with that. And then for the authoritative piece, the titles and the headings. So having a big bold title and other headings. In this case, they're both the same size, which is fine. But these give the page a feeling of confidence and authority. And as I've written here, confident plus cohesive equals attractive. And that cohesive part is using a specific set of colors or fonts. So there's an experience there that stays consistent. So for the experience part of your website, this is a little bit technical, but I am going to put it into plain English. Basically, Google, their last 2 algorithm updates are pretty significant because they involve a new way of crawling our web pages. So first of all, we have the page experience update, which rolled out in June. And with that, there's a new set of metrics that Google is now going to be prioritizing when ranking websites. They're actually not necessarily new ranking factors. They're just kind of newly prioritized factors. And they're just used to quantify a user's experience with your page. So these are called Core Web Vitals, and they have fancy names, but I have a translation here on the right for each one. So basically what they do is they measure how long it takes to create that first paint on the user's screen. So just, that first, before they even have to scroll or anything, how long does it take for the text and the images to load? And then how much time it takes for your site to answer that first click or tap. And then the third is whether there's any unexpected movement on the page. So if things shift around when they're scrolling on mobile, or if there's any full screen pop-ups that are really difficult to exit out of. That's just not a good experience. You've probably experienced it before, maybe even a little panic when you can't exit out of that, those pop-ups. And then there's mobile first indexing. So Google has always factored mobile performance into its algorithm, but it's always crawled the desktop version of your site first, or not first, but it has crawled the desktop version of your site and reconciled it against their ranking factors to determine when and where and how they should rank you. And one of those factors was your site's performance on mobile. But now Google is actually crawling the mobile version of all sites. So it reconciles your performance on mobile against its ranking factors in order to, form its judgment, if you will, figure out where to rank it. So if you put these two together with the page experience and the mobile first, even if most of your traffic comes from desktop users, it's still your mobile performance according to those core web vitals that Google is really prioritizing here and determining where to rank its sites. So the mobile optimization is really important. So there's some things you can do here. Some of it is more technical, but this is more about what you can do. So the low-hanging fruit would be to resize and compress your images. So for resizing, find out what the maximum width is for your page, and then make sure your images aren't exceeding that. And then for compression, what this will do is reduce the size of the file of the image, so the file size, but it'll keep the dimensions the same. And in most cases, the image won't even look like, you can't tell that it's compressed. It has the same image quality. So I usually aim for probably like 70 to 100 kilobytes, lower if possible, but it's not always doable, and different websites are different. We also have a billion pages on our site, so every image matters. For sites with less pages, it's not going to be as difficult for those pages to load, so the images may not slow it down as much. But also for images like your home page, where you want those high resolution images, compression shouldn't be your priority there. It really should be appearance, which we talked about in our first slide for websites. So, okay, and then also use Google Search Console and the Page Speed Insights tool. So the good thing about these tools is that they're both free, and they'll give you a score and tell you exactly what you need to do to improve it. But it's a little bit tough because a lot of times those improvements are pretty, they look kind of foreign. It's like in developer language, so you might need a little help with making those fixes. But chances are, if you're using a good website builder, it's probably going to be formatted in a pretty compliant way. And then finally, we have experience. Oh, sorry, we have visibility. I changed the slide on one screen, but not on the other. So what I mean by visibility is that, you know, like in our existence versus present slide earlier, your site shouldn't just turn up when somebody searches your business directly. So there's ways for you to get discovered by somebody when they're not directly searching for your business name. So how to do it. So a lot of different ways to increase your visibility online, and that's what SEO it refers to, search engine optimization. But one of the best strategies out there is to have a blog. So what a blog lets you do is write articles that target all kinds of searches your potential customers are performing on Google. So these searches are called keywords. So the word keyword is a little bit misleading because keywords don't have to be one word. If somebody types in how to improve my online presence, that's a keyword. So with a blog post, you can target all different kinds of keywords and not just the ones that people are performing when they want exactly what you offer. So I'll unpack that a little bit more. So with our landscaper example on the right, if you're a landscaper, you know, you could target searches like home landscaping ideas or how to keep grass green, or, you know, in this example, it's how to find a good landscaper. So you can see here that now you can rank high in results for a lot of different searches for people that could at some point be a good fit for your business. So maybe not now, but as they're trying to do their DIY stuff, or maybe they're doing some research later on down the line when they're ready to buy, you're going to be top of mind because you were a good resource for them. And then make sure you promote your blog post through email and social media. So back to our 3 R's here. This is going to drive more traffic to those posts, which will help with their rank. And people will then share these posts with their networks. They can forward their emails. They can repost your post, or they can, if they read it on your blog, they can hit share there, and that's going to impact your reach. And then, like I said earlier, since you're providing useful information, you're becoming that trusted resource, which is the reputation part of things. All right, social media. So a couple stats here. After following a brand on social media, 91% of people will visit its website, 89% will buy from it, and 85% will recommend that brand to a family member or a friend. So obviously you can see what a strong social media presence can do for your business, but you probably also didn't need those stats because social media is just in our faces all the time. So for appearance for social media, the question here is your feed just one long promotional reel for your business, or does it add value? So social media feeds aren't chronological anymore. There's so much content out there. There's no way that a person will just go through their feed, and it's just, you get what I'm saying. There's algorithms that are put in place to decide which posts to put on which feeds and when, and this is largely based on engagement. So not just how much engagement a particular post has gotten, but how likely it is to get more engagement. And with purely promotional posts, these don't typically get people as excited as something that, you know, really has value or really impacts them emotionally. So it also doesn't look good if all you're ever doing is pitching your business anyway. So what I've written here is that social media is a community to contribute to, not a podium for pitching. So the strategy here is to abide by the 70-20-10 rule. And this says that your post should be 70% useful. So they provide education, advice, tutorials, practical information, like if your hours change. 20% emotional. Now, this doesn't mean cheesy or sappy images, unless you're into that kind of thing. I just mean that it lets people connect with you on a deeper level. So that might include funny or inspirational posts or memes, celebrational stuff like awards or milestones, or anything that falls in line with your core values. So you might see, a post on gratitude that somebody else wrote, and you share that because that's something that means something to you. And then only 10% of your content should be promotional. So directly promotes your products, your specific products or services, and may or may not link to an actual product page or a pricing page or something like that. Now going back to our 3 R's here, first of all, people are going to be more likely to engage with this mix of content, which the algorithm likes. That's your ranking aspect. And then people can share your posts with their networks, giving you that reach. And third, you're positioning yourself as that expert, just like we talked about for the blogging piece. But with social media, even better is that you can add more of a personality and put more of a human behind this content that you're putting out. So you're an expert, but you're kind of that approachable expert, which is the reputation piece. Okay, social media experience. So as we just talked about, you want to be posting useful content that gets shared and engaged with, but something to remember about social media is that these platforms they're more on the side of real-time engagement and relationship building. So you also have to engage back. If your social media, if you're just going to be publishing blog posts on your social media feed, you may as well just be only publishing blog posts and not having a social media. That's actually not true because you can still expand your reach. But the point I'm making here is that instead of just sharing your blog posts all the time, you're responding to your followers' likes and comments, you're following them back, you're proactively liking and sharing their content, posting questions that spark discussions, running polls, all that kind of stuff. And the idea behind this is that people want to feel heard and that you value their opinion. So this interactive behavior is really important on social media and for that reputation piece. And finally, visibility. So remember, each social media platform has its own search engine. So it's important to optimize your profiles and your posts to rank as high as possible in searches that are taking place on those channels. So the first step here is to make sure your profiles are complete. So fill out every field provided so you can show up in searches, and also use branded elements. So add your logo to images. Even if you're posting a quote, like you can customize that to your brand colors. If you have a graphic that you're sharing from a blog post, this all increases familiarity with your brand and makes that cohesive experience. And then use hashtags. So this real estate company on the right here has specific hashtags to their location, their company name, their services, and a lot of other stuff on there. But those are the main things I want to point out. And what this does is now if somebody searches one of those hashtags on Instagram, this post can show up. Or if they're on a different, if they're looking at a different post somewhere else that has that hashtag and they tap on it, it'll now bring them to those same search results where your post can turn up. So that's an example of that, that proactive presence. And then on my next slide here, you can also see that if somebody Googles your business name, so we're talking about getting found by people who aren't searching your business name, but if they do, the results page is going to show your website, but also your social media profiles, and in some cases, your posts. I think that's only the case with Twitter, but not sure. And then not just your social media profiles, but your descriptions on there. So you want these to look good, you want them to be consistent. So your first page search result presence looks good. All right, on to listings. So stats here, 92% of searchers will pick businesses on the first page of local search results. So the local search results are when if you perform a search, usually as long as there's any sort of local relevancy to the search that you're performing, like so if you're searching like marketing strategies, that doesn't really have any local intent to it, so you won't see local results there. But if you searched like marketing agency, then it would bring up, first of all, it would bring up ads for marketing agencies, but the local results would be that Google map that you see with those three, it's called the 3-pack. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's an ad in there, but those are your local results. So you want to be showing up there because 92% of searchers pick businesses on that first page, and we'll talk about that. And then we have 88% of people who search for a local business on a mobile device either call or visit that business within 24 hours. And then 50% of Google searches have local intent. So that's huge, that 50% of people are searching for things that are nearby to them that they can either go to or get more quickly. And then my appearance, experience, and visibility kind of formula here is a little too intertwined on listings. So I'm just going to give you some three kind of core fundamentals that you can go by. So first step, obviously, get listed. You may already be listed, but the most important ones are Google My Business, Facebook, and Yelp. So it's definitely important to get listed on more of those industry-specific directories, but these should be your priority because they're the most popular. So you may or may not know this, but a Google My Business listing is how you show up on Google Maps, but also on regular search results. So the local results that I just talked about. And then on the knowledge panel, which appears on the right-hand side of search results when you're searching on desktop. So that will show it'll show whenever it can, but especially if somebody types in your business name and your location, it shows up and gives a complete profile of your business right there on the first page of search results. So a Google My Business listing is huge. And then we've got Yelp and Facebook. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that Facebook is one of the top directories, because think about all of the information you can add about your business on your Facebook business page. It is a listing. It's a directory listing. And you can see here in my middle example that this search for dry cleaners near me, Lapel's Dry Cleaning in Stoughton comes up on the first page. It's the fourth result. And that's not Lapel's website, it's their Facebook page. So in some cases, your Yelp page or your Facebook page can show up higher than your website. And that's not uncommon because these are high authority, they have massive amounts of traffic, they're widely trusted by Google. So it makes sense that these more popular websites for local businesses, that are directories for local businesses, would show up higher than the actual local business websites. And then we know that Yelp is a popular app, but again, like I'm showing here, you tend to see these top 10 lists all the time on the first page of Google. And like I said, also sometimes a Lapel's Dry Cleaning Yelp profile will appear there too. So if you optimize your listings, you have a chance for showing up on the first page for high purchase intent searches. Okay. Oh, sorry, I forgot to talk about how to do it. So these are the sites you can go to. So for Google, google.com/business. Yelp is business.yelp.com. And then for Facebook, you'll want to set your page to local business or place. And this will allow you to add that information. And then make sure you claim your listings. So not the case with Facebook, but especially Google and any other listings that might come up. It's important to verify your ownership of that business, because then you can update the information on there as needed, and you can also manage your reviews that way. All right. Now, so set up your listings, and now we optimize them. The 3 pillars of listing optimization are complete, consistent, and accurate. So by complete, that means that every field that platform offers to you is filled out. This is going to help you rank in search results, but also, as you can see with Carl's Electric here, a bare listing just isn't attractive and maybe will make people even question whether or not you still even exist or whether you care about your business. So it's really important to have a complete listing that shows that you've put thought and care into your business, just like we talked about with the T-chart. Your listings aren't just thrown up there, they're carefully thought out and put together. And a side note, obviously I manipulated these to keep the information anonymous, but these are based on what you really do see on Google. So have a full listing. And make sure you choose a category. That's part of having a complete listing. So this is, once again, how you show up for people who don't know to search your business name, but might know to search for what product they want or what service they want, or even just the category of service that they want. And in most cases with, I know it's with Google and definitely with Yelp, I mean, probably with all of them, when you pick your category, it'll usually unlock more fields to fill out that are more specific to your industry. So if you're a restaurant, it'll give you an option to add your menu, or if you're a hair salon, it might give you the option for people to book appointments from your listing, and that kind of thing. And then for consistency, you want to make sure your information isn't just consistent with your actual business information. You want that information to be as consistent as possible across all of your listings. This isn't, entirely possible, but as much as you can control it. So be meticulous. For the information that you put in your listings, take care of every little detail, like abbreviations and apostrophes, street versus ST, company versus the company. So like if you're a cookie company or the cookie company. And this is because there's a lot of smaller directories out there that will auto-generate listings based on the larger directory. So they pull from that. And the fields don't always map up one-to-one. So those little details can get lost in translation. And the reason why this is important to know is that Google, when it's looking at your business and how to rank it, it looks at the consistency of your information across the entire web. So inconsistent information doesn't send a good trust signal to Google. And it also doesn't send trust signals to people either. So in our blue bubble here, you can see 80% of people lose trust in local businesses with incorrect and inconsistent information online. And that's even if it's not your fault. So people don't know that there are auto-generated listings out there. They just look at a listing and they follow the information, and if it's wrong, they will get mad at you. Or if it's empty or bare, they're just going to say, all right, I don't know if this business exists. I don't have time to figure it out. I'm just going to move on to something else. So update your listings whenever there's a change, and get into the habit of Googling yourself. This will help you to see if there are any auto listings that have popped up that you didn't create, and then you can look into claiming them or updating the information on there. And you can also just get a feel for, okay, how does my Google business listing look like right now? And then photos are a pretty big deal. So I had to double check these stats because they just seemed crazy, but they are very much accurate. Google My Business profiles with more than 100 photos get 520% more calls, 1,000% more website clicks, and 2,700% more direction requests. So that's crazy, but it means that you need to have photos. And my tip, don't upload 100 photos all at once. You really want to have, you want them to be like naturally being added to your profile, and other people can add photos of your business as well. But when you're adding photos too, there's a set of guidelines that Google has for pictures on this platform in particular, because the idea isn't to be branded or promote your products or your discounts. It's to give people a feel for what it's like to actually be at your business or use your products. So there's definitely some guidelines there. Google has them up on their site. And then the most important thing is your reviews. So I'm dedicating a whole slide to that. So reviews are the #1 ranking factor for local search. And that's not just if you have them, it's how many you have, how recent they are, how frequently you get reviews, and how many you respond to, and even how many you don't respond to. So Google looks at all of those things. And this is why it's important to have a proactive review strategy in place where you're asking for reviews and you're responding to them. Plus, I'm sure if you're like me, if you look at a list of listings and you see a business that has 5 stars but only 5 reviews, you're probably still going to choose the business that has maybe 4 or 4.5 stars, but a lot more reviews. All right, paid ads. So PPC yields an 80% increase in brand awareness, a 200% ROI, and 50% more conversions than organic traffic. That does not mean you shouldn't do SEO. We're going to get into that in a little bit. And we're going to go back to my 3 pillars here. So for appearance, your ads need to capture your audience's attention and build familiarity with your brand. So it's a little easier to capture attention with social and display ads because you have a lot more room for creativity. So you can use really nice stock images or high resolution photos. You can create custom graphics and you can play around with your ad copy. You can be creative, funny, witty. You have more room for creativity there. And then all these elements work together to form that feel of your brand. One thing you would want to pay attention to though is where those display ads are appearing. So exclusion lists are really important for making sure your content doesn't show up next to other content that you don't want to be associated with. And then for search ads, you don't really have room for creativity here. You just have the same blue text that everybody else is working with. But the appearance part of this would be which keywords you target and how you organize and prioritize the information in your ad copy. And another thing you can do with your search ads is use extensions to take up more space, like you can see with Zendu on the right here. And then for any of these ad types, use A/B testing. So in my example here, we have a Facebook A/B test for using a graphic versus a real photo. But there's tons of other things you can test, like the headline, body copy, images, call to action, what time it runs, the landing page. It's just important to make sure that you are only testing one variable at a time so you can actually see what's making the difference in your performance. And then for experience, what I mean by this is that your ads are, the experience of your ads is seamless and personalized. So by seamless, this means that your landing page should feel like an extension of the ad that the person just clicked on. So same colors, same language, same call to action you use, same images. And also if there's a form on there, don't ask them to provide too much information because it's just going to become inconvenient and our attention spans are limited these days. And then for personalized, this is all about audience targeting. So search and social platforms give you a ton of different options for this. You can target by demographics, interests and hobbies, places visited, apps downloaded, and then even previous engagement with other ads that you have running. So you have a lot of different options there. And an example of this would be you target a segment of your audience that is passionate about a particular topic. So now you can create an ad that uses language that really resonates with them in particular. Another example would be if you targeted a specific location or neighborhood, you could then use images that are familiar for that, maybe landmarks that are familiar to that area, or even some of the terminology that they use. So this way you're connecting with your audience rather than just kind of broadcasting your name out there. And then for the visibility part, what I mean here is that your ads rank high in many places at the right times and consistently. So ads are prominent by nature. The whole point of advertising is to pay for your business to show up in these highly visible places on the web. So this is more about your reach. So on how many different channels are you taking those prominent spots, and how often and how high? So first step here is to make sure you have a cross-channel strategy. So you're not just using multiple channels like Facebook, Google, Reddit, display ads. You're using insights from each of those channels to strengthen results on the other, and making it more of a cohesive experience for people no matter what platform they're on. And this is also goes back to what I said about your assets working together. So like, even if somebody sees a Facebook ad for your business, even if they don't click on it, they might then go search your business name because they're intrigued, and then they might see an ad you have running there and be more likely to convert there, or they might find one of your blog posts that you've written. And on the other hand, if you have keywords that are performing really well in your Google ads, you might then want to use those keywords in your ad copy on social and display. And then retargeting, that's a huge contributor to your visibility. So basically what you can do here is target people that have been to your website after they've been to your website. So they might go to your website, not buy anything, or not convert or click on any call to actions, or calls to action. And then later on, they might be on another website and they see an ad for your business, and now they see your business again, they're reminded of your business. And that's why I have these stats here. It takes multiple encounters with a brand for a person to actually become a customer. And take your audience's lifestyle into account. So this is about ad scheduling. You want to make sure you're showing ads at the times that they're most likely to be on those platforms. So this is going to increase your visibility, but also save you money. So you're not paying for ads to run, you know, in the middle of the day for somebody who only checks social media at night. And then back to what I said about organic versus SEO versus PPC. It's important to use both. So we know that the definition of online presence is not just rank and reach, it's reputation. So even if paid traffic converts higher than organic traffic, showing up on the first page of organic results gives you that leadership and credibility. Whereas if you just have an ad running, yeah, maybe that ad shows up in the top spot of ads, but it just shows that you're good at doing what everybody else does, which is advertising their business. So it's all about that leadership and credibility. And that's also going to influence whether or not people click on your paid ads. And that's the example here I have is of Talkspace. They show up in the top spot on both organic and paid. This isn't always going to be doable. This is a pretty well-known brand. But the point is, if you're showing up on two different places on the first page, the chances of a person clicking on one of those results is going to be much higher. All right, so finally we have content. So we already talked a lot about content in these strategies. For your website, you want it to be modern and authoritative. For social media, it should have that 70-20-10 mix and be engaging. For listings, you want it to be meticulously accurate and detailed. And for ads, you want to capture attention and be personalized. And of course, for all of these, you want it to be consistent with your brand, useful, and optimized for algorithms. But there are two more aspects that I want to cover about content. So the first is diversity. It's important to make sure your content is representing a wide range of people within your target audience. So this doesn't just mean your photos and your images, but if you're giving an example in a blog post about something, diversify who you use in that example. This obviously impacts your reputation in obvious ways, but this is also your chance to expand your reach to more people within your target audience. And people really resonate when people see content that resonates with them. They're attracted to that. So the more people that you can identify with in your content, the more people there are that are going to notice you and connect with you. And the other part of diversity is to diversify your content formats. So not just written, but audio, video, and then different forms of written. So like short form, long form, interactive. And this is the content marketing matrix here on the right. It's a great image. It shows you different content types. So from left to right, the purpose of these content pieces is awareness all the way to purchase. From bottom to top, it's rational content to emotional content. And then that kind of creates these 4 quadrants where there are content purposes to entertain, inspire, educate, and convince. So by diversifying your content, you're keeping things fresh, and you're also reaching different people in your audience based on their learning styles and what they prefer to see and their attention spans. And then the last part is accessibility. So I'm going to kind of breeze through this because I want to leave room for questions and answers at the end, but what accessibility does is it lets people with disabilities access your content the same way that people without disabilities would access it. So when you look at a website page, there's a lot more that you learn by looking at it in the context of the rest of the elements on the page than you would learn if you just heard the text being read to you. And so we take these visual elements for granted, like having a paragraph break or having bold headings to show where we're moving on to a new section or a topic. So what you would do to make your content more accessible is to optimize it for things like screen readers. So these are machines that will crawl through a page just like Google does, and it will use different elements of the coding on the page to provide an experience of that page for the person that they wouldn't otherwise get. So a few things to do here is to use heading tags. If you're writing a blog post, you usually will have like different paragraphs and different sections. Think of it like an outline, and instead of just making font larger with text manually, use the heading assignments in your content management system to assign those headings to the page. And then you also want to add alt text to images. So this is the text alternative of an image that will tell the screen reader could then tell a person what the image is about. And also for Google, this is how Google sees images. And then use sufficient color contrast, which you can use an accessibility checker to do that. All right, sorry I didn't leave a whole lot of time for questions. I'm going to launch a poll question now that you should see on your screen. So get a free score on your online presence today to see how you can improve your reach, rank, and reputation. If you didn't see it before, you'll see it now. So if you want to improve your 3 Rs, you can raise your hand and we will get in touch with you after the webinar to help you see how you can do that for your business specifically. So questions here. I see a lot of questions. Well, I see a lot of questions about third-party data, so I'm going to start with that just because it's really important. So this is a loaded question. So this one is, can you explain how third-party cookies work and what we'll need to do differently? So there's still a lot that's up in the air for advertisers and even Google, but I can tell you some of the fundamentals. So third-party cookies are used to track individual people across the web. So instead of, I'm trying to figure out what to compare it to, but if a person goes to a website, there will be a unique tracking ID assigned to them, and then Google can look at their behavior as they do their thing across the web. And then it uses its information to create different audiences that people can target in their advertising. And then the other part of this is, so that's the audience targeting part, kind of like what I talked about earlier with targeting people based on their interests or what kinds of places they've been to. or what apps they've downloaded. And then the other purpose with cookies is the retargeting capabilities. So again, if a person visits your website, you could then retarget them based on what they've done on your site or what they haven't done, and you can retarget them on a different platform like Facebook or on somebody else's website, like a publisher's website. So without cookies, this kind of targeting is going to become a lot more difficult because we don't have as much visibility into what people are doing on the web. What I can tell you is that cookies aren't everything, so there are ways to advertise without using cookies. So that would be contextual advertising. So this would be like if you're creating display ads, you can set them to run to an audience that, not a specific audience of people with specific interests, but you can set your ad to run on sites that are a particular topic that people with those interests would visit. So there's no privacy infringement there. There's nothing to do with cookies. It's just about what the topic of the website is. And the other thing is to collect your own first-party data. So even though third-party data, that's collected by a third-party source, and it's a way of getting relevant audience information in a scaled up manner. But your own data is your most accurate and most reliable data to work with. So getting your own first party data, a lot of that would be, using lead magnets. So promoting a free guide on your site and in exchange for a person's email address. So now you have a list of email addresses of people who are interested in that particular piece of content that you wrote. So now you could upload that list of emails to Facebook and run an ad on Facebook for something related to the topic of that guide. So, and you could even run Facebook lead ad. You can run Facebook lead form ads where a person doesn't even have to go to a landing page on your site. They are just taken to a form right within the app where they can fill out information and get what they are looking for there. Excuse me. Sorry, I meant to also change this to the questions. There we go. Okay, let's see. We've got some time left. So let's see. Somebody has a question here on, so I see a question about that, like interest targeting, so I'll get to that next, but there's one here on tools or recommendations for creating images or graphics for my business that I can use on my website and in other places. So yes, because appearance is what we just talked about a lot. So my number one recommendation is Canva. It's free. There are tons of templates that you can pull from and customize. You can upload images and save them to your library so then you can reuse them. This is great for like if you're creating images that you want to put your brand on them, your logo on them. This makes it super easy. You can create really good looking charts, graphs, pie charts. I mean, there's so many options there, so I highly recommend it. And even if that's good for the free version, but if you do the paid version too, you can save a color palette, save a set of logos, maybe you have different versions of your logo. So Canva is really great. There's also stock photo websites. So the three that I'm thinking of are Deposit Photos, what are the other two? Shutterstock and Getty. So whether you may or may not use stock photos, but that's great. And then you could also, I think for most of those, you can sort by the colors in the photo. So this is great for, with that example we had at the beginning of that good looking website, there was a photo on there that matched the colors of that company's branded colors on the page. So that's great for stock photos. And then there's also free, they're not really stock, but they're not not stock photos. They're just good high quality images. So if you go to unsplash.com, there is another one called Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S. You can find some really good creative images on there that do not look stocky and don't require any effort on your part to come up with something that looks authentic for your site. So good question, a lot of great resources, and it's important, especially with your ads, because ad fatigue, we don't want that. All right, so the question about targeting based on interest. So when you talk about targeting based on interest, can you talk a little more about that, how it works, how to use it? Yeah, so I've touched on this kind of all over the place. So for social media, it's really easy to target people based on their interests because people publicly share that information. So they check off interests in their profiles, they write about particular interests, their behavior is right there on their feed, who they're following, what they're liking, who they're engaging with. So that's why social media advertising is known for its targeting, because people are giving that information. For Google, this is kind of where the cookies come in. So Google can gather a ton of information about you based on your search behavior. So yes, about like the apps you download and the sites you visit and the places that you've requested directions to, but it can also see, okay, what are you searching and what are the intent of those searches? So for example, let's say that a person, so let's say you're a hotel in Miami and you want to run ads. Think about a person, so let's say a person in Denver is, so they don't live in Miami, but they are looking up flights to Miami, what to do in Miami, kayak rentals in Miami. So Google can see here that there's a clear interest in Miami, even if the person doesn't live there, and Google can create audiences of people with those interests. So this is audiences of individual people based on their logged in data. And you can then, if you're that hotel, you could then choose to target that audience. So now you're not having to target a particular radius, but you can target people all over the world who have the intent to travel to Miami. And as far as cookies go, so this is going to become more difficult with cookies, but Google is working on something called FLoC. That stands for Federated Learning of Cohorts. And I'm not familiar with it that much. It gets pretty technical, but I do know that the idea is that instead of creating audiences of individuals, it's creating cohorts of anonymized users. So it's a way for advertisers to be able to target, but still in a privacy compliant way. All right, we have a couple more minutes. Since I went over in my presentation, I do want to answer at least one or two more questions. So somebody asked here how to claim your listing on Google My Business. So yes, this is a little bit, this can be complicated. It should be simple, right? Because Google makes everything simple, but claiming your listing on Google is not the same as creating your listing. So anybody can actually create a listing for your business on Google. You just go to Google Maps and you search a particular place. And if it doesn't exist, then you add it. Obviously, the place has to exist, but that at that particular address. So somebody could add your business and then you have a listing and you have no control over it. So it could be collecting reviews. There could be information getting loaded on there that isn't 100% accurate. So the way you claim your listing is you search for your business. So if you haven't created a listing, first search for your business and see if there is a listing. And then there will be an option there when you see your listing. It's like own this business ? You'd click on that and then Google will take you through a process of verifying your ownership. So for some industries, you'll need to have a postcard mailed to your actual location, and for others, you can do it via phone or email. And then I'll do one more question. We're just about at the hour, but what other listings should I get on? So yes, Google My Business is important, Facebook and Yelp. definitely those industry specific ones that I talked about. So Home Advisor, Angie, that used to be called Angie's List, TripAdvisor, those kinds of sites. And also there's usually associations that you might belong to, like, you know, there's like the American Association of Interior Designers, for example. There's opportunities there to get on their directory. So those are huge. And then you've got like Better Business Bureau, your Chamber of Commerce, Glassdoor, that's another huge one. What else am I forgetting here? Well, I will tell you too, Foursquare, so that's not really a thing anymore with social media, but you'd be surprised at different directories that platforms pull from, like for voice search answers. And so I think that Foursquare is actually used by something important. I think Bing might pull from Foursquare. I'm not sure, but that's also an important listing to have. Yellowpages.com, there's a lot on there. We have a post on that. So if you just Google, you know, I think it's like the 10 free local listings or something, you can see that post. All right, so that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for showing up for this presentation. I hope you've learned a lot about how to increase your online presence. And you know, like we said, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand on this poll. I'll leave it up for another minute or so. And when you raise your hand on the poll, this will then allow us to reach out to you after the webinar and get those questions answered for you. So I know there are some questions that I saw come in that were really specific to a person's account or maybe their industry. Raise your hand on the poll. Someone will get in touch with you and you can actually talk about it one-on-one with a person. All right. I just want to give you guys some more time on that poll because I forgot to mention that earlier. Just seeing if there are any other questions that I can answer. I did see some questions on here about keywords. So keywords, like I said, they are the searches that people are, they're the words that people are typing into Google essentially. So if you think about your areas of expertise, you know, maybe you are really good at, I'm trying to think of, so if you're good at something, but people don't necessarily, like the general public doesn't really know the term for what you do. So think about what they are searching online when they are in need of your product or services or in need of information that pertains to your business. And there are plenty of keyword research tools out there. Ahrefs is one of them, the Google Ads Keyword Planner, WordStream. So we have a free keyword tool that you can use. Again, if you Google keyword research tools, you'll probably see one of our posts come up. But what you do is you would look at the volume of the keywords. That's how many times that keyword gets searched each month. And then the competition, so that's how difficult it is to rank for that keyword. And you want to choose keywords that have a sufficient volume but aren't that hard to rank for. So that's probably all I can really get into today for keywords, but we have plenty of resources online. So, all right, so for real this time, that's all the time we have for today. I wish you all the best of luck in improving your online presence. Okay, bye-bye.